There are moments when your hands tremble for no reason, when your chest tightens and your breath shortens. Not because you're weak, but because life just feels too heavy. Moments when your mind whispers, maybe it's easier to quit. When your heart is tired of pretending to be strong. When all you want is to disappear for a while. To stop holding it together. To stop being the one everyone expects to keep fighting. Maybe no one sees it. Maybe you're the one everyone calls resilient, brave, unbreakable. But behind closed doors, you've said to yourself, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And that's not cowardice. That's fear. And fear is human. And maybe you've started to believe that being afraid makes you weak. That shaking before the storm means you're not worthy of facing it. That wanting to run means you've already lost. But here's the truth. It doesn't. Fear is not failure. Fear is a signal that what you're about to face matters. That your heart still beats for something. That you are alive. You are not a coward because you cry in silence. You are not less because you've considered giving up. You are not weak because fear visits you in the night. You are human. And more than that, you are a warrior in disguise. Because a true warrior isn't someone who feels no fear. He's not cold. He's not untouchable. He's not made of stone. A true warrior is the one who still fights, even when his hands are shaking. Even when doubt screams louder than courage. Even when his knees want to give out. But he plants his feet anyway. He doesn't wait for fear to leave. He moves with it. He doesn't silence the trembling. He walks forward through it. You don't become brave by erasing fear. You become brave by refusing to let it stop you. Some people think a warrior is fearless, stone-faced, emotionless, untouched by chaos or doubt. But ask a real soldier, one who stood on the edge of battle, one who said goodbye to his family not knowing if he'd return. He'll tell you the truth. He was afraid. He felt his hands tremble when the order came. He thought of his kids, his partner, his unfinished plans. He questioned if he could do it, but he stepped forward anyway. He laced his boots. He looked his fear in the eye and walked into the fire. Because courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you go anyway. A true warrior is not immune to fear. He fights despite it. Let that sink in. It doesn't say he's fearless. It doesn't say he's always confident. It says she feels the fear and fights anyway. Because the battle is not just on the outside. It's inside where fear whispers, you can't, and courage answers, watch me. This quote isn't just about war. It's about every person who's ever stood at the edge of something terrifying and chosen to move forward anyway. That's what makes a warrior. Not the armor, not the victory, but the moment they fight, with fear still sitting beside them. So stop waiting to feel fearless. Stop punishing yourself for the pounding heart, the shaky hands, the voice that cracks when you speak your truth. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to keep going. With fear walking right beside you, don't waste your strength trying to silence fear. Use your strength to walk through it. You can cry and still show up. You can tremble and still take the shot. You can be afraid and still be a warrior. Because the truth is, you've already fought so many battles with fear by your side. And guess what? You're still here, still standing, still moving forward. That is what makes you unstoppable. Not all strength is real. Some of it is armor made of denial. Some people don't feel fear not because they're brave, but because they don't understand what's coming. Ignorance can look like courage until the storm hits. But the one who knows what's at stake, who understands the pain, the cost, the risk, and still chooses to rise, that is real strength. The man who shakes before stepping on stage, but speaks anyway. The woman who knows treatment will hurt, but walks into the hospital anyway. The young person who knows failure is possible, but tries anyway. The brave are not fearless. They are aware, and they choose anyway. Because true courage is not blind. It's fully awake and still moving forward. Not all warriors wear uniforms. Not all courage is loud. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are fighting battles you'll never see. Like the mother who carries life inside her, alone. No support, no partner, just a quiet promise to protect this child, no matter what it costs her. Like the father who spent years walled off by anger and pride, and one day looks into his child's eyes and says, "I'm sorry." Like the cancer patient who knows the pain that lies ahead, the hair that will fall, the strength that will fade, but still walks into the clinic, eyes shining with the fire of hope. They don't get parades. They don't trend on headlines, but they are warriors, real ones, because they fight with fear sitting beside them, and they fight anyway. You don't have to silence your fear to be brave. You don't have to pretend it's not there. You just have to make one powerful choice. Don't let fear lead. Let it walk beside you. Let it shake your hands. Let it scream in your ears. But don't let it hold the map. Courage is not about overpowering fear. It's about walking with it and choosing the path anyway. So the next time your knees tremble, the next time your heart races, the next time doubt clouds your vision, don't wait for the fear to leave. Move anyway. Speak anyway. Love anyway. Try anyway. Because every step forward, no matter how small, no matter how scared, is a victory. And with every step, you become more than someone who simply endures. You become someone who overcomes. She wasn't fearless. She was a mother, a daughter, a soldier, serving on the front lines of a foreign land, where danger was not an if, but a when. Every morning, she laced her boots knowing that day could be her last. She had seen the worst: bodies, explosions, the kind of silence that only follows chaos. But what broke her the most wasn't the battlefield. It was the nights. Nights when her son would ask on video calls, "Mom, are you coming home soon?" And she would smile, hide the tears, and say, "Soon, baby." One morning, just before a critical mission, she broke down. Alone in her tent, she sobbed silently, shoulders shaking, because the fear had finally caught up. But when the call came, she wiped her face. She stood up. She grabbed her gear and stepped into the lead. Someone asked, "How do you do it?" She said, "I'm not fearless. I'm terrified. But I know if I don't step forward, someone else will have to. And I'd rather carry the fear than let them carry the risk." That is what it means to be a true warrior. He was never the loud one in class, never raised his hand, never looked people in the eyes. Bullies noticed that, and like they always do, they attacked. He was small, quiet, easy to overlook, even easier to target. He began to walk with his head down. He avoided lunch breaks. He avoided everything, until one day, his father took him to a small dojo. He didn't want to go. He was afraid of the noise, the people, of failing. But something inside him said, "Try." So he did. He fell. A lot. He lost sparring matches. He cried more times than he'd admit. But every time he fell, he stood up again. He entered his first tournament and lost. He entered his second and lost again. But he kept going, kept stepping into the ring. Not because he stopped being afraid, but because he refused to let fear decide who he would become. 2 years later, he won his first national medal. And when asked, "Are you still scared before matches?" he smiled and said, "Always. But I've learned something important. I don't need fear to leave. I just need to bring it with me into the ring. He was just 43, a successful architect, a quiet man with a small family, a soft voice, and a daughter who called him her hero. Then came the diagnosis. Stage 4 cancer. It hit like a freight train. Sudden, merciless, and final. At first, he shut down. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just disappeared into himself. He stopped answering calls, stopped going to appointments, stopped talking to his little girl. He was afraid, not of pain, but of dying without having lived the right way. One night, sitting alone in the dark, he started writing a letter to his daughter, a goodbye. And halfway through the letter, his hand paused. He stared at the words. "I'm sorry I didn't fight harder." Something broke. Not in despair, but in realization. What will she remember? That her father gave up? That he died afraid? The next morning, he got out of bed, called his doctor, asked for the treatment plan of it. He started chemo. It was brutal. There were days he couldn't walk. Nights he shook from pain. But every time he looked at his daughter, he told himself, "I might not beat this disease, but I will not let fear take the last days of my life." He began volunteering at the cancer ward, talking to other patients, telling jokes between IV bags, reading stories to kids with bald heads and bright eyes. And though his prognosis never changed, his presence did. He became a symbol of something deeper than hope. He became the embodiment of courage in motion. Maybe you're afraid right now, afraid of what's next, afraid of not being enough, afraid of failing someone you love, afraid of losing something or someone. And maybe just like the soldier, the shy boy, or the father facing death, you think fear disqualifies you from being strong. But it doesn't. Because every step you take today while afraid is a victory. Every morning you get up, every message you answer, every time you choose to keep going when quitting seems easier, that's bravery. Raw, real, unpolished, but powerful beyond measure. So don't shame yourself for being scared. Honor yourself for moving anyway. You don't need to become a superhero. You don't need to silence every doubt, crush every fear, or smile through every storm. That's not strength. That's a performance. Real strength is quieter. It's in the quiet inhale before a hard conversation. It's in the trembling hand that still signs the divorce papers. It's in the heart that still dares to love again. After it's been broken, you don't have to be unshakable. You just have to be willing. Willing to keep going. Willing to try. Willing to feel deeply and keep walking forward with your eyes open. Because true courage isn't pretending you're not afraid. It's choosing to show up anyway. Courage doesn't come from destroying fear. It comes from learning how to carry it, walk with it, and still move forward. Because fear will always be there, in the background, in the silence, in the questions that have no clear answers. But you get to choose. And every time you take a step forward with fear beside you, you are no longer its prisoner. You are its master. So walk forward, even if your knees shake, even if your voice cracks. Because a true warrior isn't the one who feels nothing. It's the one who feels everything and fights anyway. If you're fighting a battle right now, and no one sees it, if you're carrying fear like a shadow that never leaves your side, but still showing up, still trying, still standing, then let me say this. I see you, and I honor you. If you're still moving forward, even one shaky step at a time, drop a huge in the comments. Not for applause, not for attention, but as a quiet reminder to yourself. I may be scared, but I'm still showing up. And if this message found you at the right moment, stay with us. Subscribe to USM, Soldier's Memory, because here we tell the stories of those who live and love and rise even when no one is watching. And next time, I'll bring you another story of someone just like you, who chose courage even when fear refused to leave.